Welcome back to my mental health and crime channel. My name is Huda London. I'm a licensed cognitive behavior therapist, that's a CBT therapist, and a licensed mental health counselor. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the contents of my channel. I'd like to thank all my subscribers, all my viewers, for your kind comments. I would like to give out a big shout out to Outcast and Bianca. They both have channels. They are just respectful, kind, mindful, decent people. Please go and check out his channel because it is just so comfortable, relaxing. He has the best mods, best chat. He is a respectful creator who tries to promote other creators. And that reminds me of a shout out to another person, Tommy Jude. Once upon a crime time. Tommy Jude is a very decent person too. He always promotes other creators. Please go check out his channel too. Now I wanted to address something, and this is my thoughts and my opinions that I wanted to share with my subscribers and viewers. I consider my subscribers like a family. And many people have asked me if I think if any of the 4 victims are alive, especially Katie. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. We can agree to disagree without being negative or hateful towards each other. At times I see so much hate from certain YouTube creators, but I've been raised to be better. I'm not here to entertain other YouTube creators or people in general. The day I took on to this case, I took it for these 4 beautiful souls. May they rest in peace. Zana, Ethan, Kaylee, and Maddie. May they rest in peace. Have grieving families who are still trying to find out the truth. The last thing they need from us is more misery, in my opinion. This is just my thoughts. I personally believe that they all 4 were unalived. If it was up to Idaho, Moscow, they would have kept the case on a gag order from the first moment it happened. But for them to come out and say that these 4 students have been unalived would be a stretch if they were lying. And no, law enforcement are love to lie for good purposes. But they would not put in thousands of dollars into an investigation where one or some of the witnesses are under witness protection program. Let's not forget that. Imagine how much money they have already used in this case. From the crime scene to Later County to the lawyers prosecutors, and we're not talking about one lawyer or one prosecutor. We are talking about a team from each side. Then we have a whole court case coming where witnesses will be called like DM and BF. I personally don't think we'll even get to see the faces, but we may hear their voices. So what I'm trying to say is for all this to take place, and if the students are alive, example Kaylee, common sense would tell us Kaylee would have been used as a witness by the FBI. The court is not allowed to do any surprise witnesses. Let's not forget. And if any of the victims were alive, believe me when I say Ann Taylor would have jumped on it. Because if one of the victims are alive, they are the best victims. Let's not forget, Kaylee and Maddie were sleeping in the same bed. That means Kaylee would have seen the eyes of the suspect. Kaylee would have said if it was BK or if it was the frats, allegedly all the surviving roommates or whoever did it. That is the reason I don't believe they're alive. I really wish that would have been the best news to know that the 4 students are alive or that Kaylee, one of them, are alive. And that would have been excellent news for the defense. Critical thinking is important. Rational thoughts are important even. You always have to look at what is possible and what isn't. Yes, there's witness protection programs under the FBI. Yes, they have secret protocols for that. But do you think they would have spent thousands, if not millions, on this case? Do we think that BK would have been arrested up to today if there was one victim alive, especially Kaylee or Maddie, because they were unalived on the same bed? It's hurtful for the families to hear that. Really hurtful. So when we run around with the theory and come on panels and discuss it on panels, everyone's entitled to their thoughts, ideas, speculations, 110%. But if our thoughts and ideas are going to just get us more confused, we have already enough on our plate in this case. It was going to just lead us into another direction and distract us from what we've been working so hard since 13th November 2022, then that becomes an issue. The FBI would not go to this length to try and cover up that one of the victims are alive. This whole case would be thrown out, guys. Now, I came across something that I played, a video I played on my channel a couple of times before. But there are many new people in the cases, in this case. So it may help them for whoever thinks that the victims, I hate to say that, bodies wasn't removed from the house. there's a man, a neighbor, a young man, who JLR took an interview with him. He lives right behind 1122 King Road. He says that he saw ambulances and police, cop cars in front of the house. Not even an ambulance, ambulances. Maybe that's how they transported the victims to the hospital. And he's a neighbor. He said it was early on Sunday morning he was driving and he saw the commotion. Once again, this is under fair use purpose. I'd like to thank JLR, boots on the ground. He worked hard in this case when they went to Idaho, Moscow. He's talking to this young man. I think his name is Kane. It's a long interview, but I'll try and play the important parts.
Doing all right, I guess.
So tell me what's going on. You are a neighbor of where these stabbings happened.
Yeah, I live like right around the corner, I guess. I can see the building where it happened from my driveway.
Okay.
I didn't know anything had happened. It was around noon on Sunday that I was driving home and saw a bunch of the cop cars and ambulances, and was kind of weirded out of what was even going on.
Yeah.
But besides that, I hadn't, the night before, I hadn't seen anything. I already had two detectives come to my place and ask me as well if I had seen anything unusual or anything like that.
When they came to your place, what do you mean, your home or your work?
My home.
Okay. Did you see police go to other neighbors' homes? Were they going from door to door?
Yeah, it looked like they were going door to door. They knocked on my door. They knocked on the apartment right next to my door. But the girls that live in the apartment next to me haven't been home since this happened. I've swung by for a few minutes to grab stuff, but they haven't been home. So I've kind of been wondering if, everybody in the neighborhood is just kind of left due to the fact that nobody feels safe and have that option.
I hope you all heard that clearly. He said he looked out of his window on Sunday morning. That would be on the 13th of November 2022. He saw cop cars, police cars, and ambulances. So it's really important to listen to the neighbors too. Just say, if the police was lying, and if everyone is lying, why would a neighbor tell you what he saw from his window? There was a commotion. There was plenty of cop cars and ambulances. That was at 12 o'clock. Very important timing. Kane, the neighbor, saw the ambulances at 12 o'clock. Didn't Hunter, J, Emily, A, Dylan, M, Bethany, F, and I believe there's another girl. Didn't they all call 911 at 11:58? So I guess 911 took 2 minutes to respond. Or were there cops around the areas? Could be possible. That is a quick response. I wish DM and BF called them earlier, then maybe some of the witnesses, some of the victims could have been saved. Just maybe. If they called them when they heard something or someone in the house, at least some lives could have been saved. So for all the people who were interested in the fact that there was no ambulances in the scene, you have it from Kane. JLR took this interview. You can even go to his channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. Give him a shout out for me. Boots in the ground. Actually took this interview. And that's why I respect JLR for interviewing important people. Kane said he could see the driveway of the girls from his window. So maybe he lives in the building opposite the girls, the white building. Maybe his window faces 1122 King Road. Very interesting place he lives. But he saw the ambulances, and that was at 12 o'clock. So what I personally think, this is just my opinion, let's not forget the vandals alert was put up at 3 o'clock, if I'm not wrong. Or was it at 1 o'clock? So I'm sure the police, this is just my speculations, got the 4 victims out, maybe to the hospitals, or they transported them to Spokane, because that's where the coroner's office is. And I think they could have told the coroner to say that she came at 5:30. I don't know. Just guessing, guys. Just my speculations. But I assume they took the bodies out before they put out the vandals alert and before the mainstream news media found out about it. Because let's not forget, there are thousands of students who are there in the college. Plus, there are so many neighbors. I don't think cops want to put out a panic alarm. They would rather sort the situation and then deal with the public and the other students they have to look after.
Good. All right, I guess.
So tell me what's going on. You are a neighbor of where these stabbings happened.
Yeah, I live like right around the corner, I guess. I can see the building where it happened from my driveway.
Okay.
I didn't know anything had happened. It was around noon on Sunday that I was driving home and saw a bunch of the like cop cars and ambulances, and was kind of weirded out of like what was even going on.
Yeah.
But besides that, I hadn't, like the night before, I hadn't seen anything. I already had 2 detectives come to my place and ask me as well if I had seen anything unusual or anything like that.
When they came to your place, what do you mean, your home or your work?
My home.
Okay. Did you see police go to other neighbors' homes? Were they going from door to door?
Yeah, it looked like they were going door to door. They knocked on my door. They knocked on the apartment right next to my door. But the girls that live in the apartment next to me haven't been home since like this happened. I'll swing by for a few minutes to grab stuff, but they haven't been home. So I've kind of been wondering, like, if, everybody in the neighborhood is just kind of like left due to the fact that nobody feels safe and have that option.
Yeah.
So I hadn't, like the night before, I hadn't seen anything. I already had 2 detectives come to my place and ask me as well if I had seen anything unusual or anything like that.
When they came to your place, what do you mean, your home or your work?
My home.
Okay.
I live like right around the corner, I guess. I can see the building where it happened from my driveway.
Okay.
I didn't know anything had happened. It was around noon on Sunday that I was driving home and saw a bunch of the cop cars and ambulances, and was kind of weirded out of what was even going on. Just kind of left due to the fact that nobody feels safe and I don't have that option.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that, but for when the police came, what were they asking you? Were they asking you about surveillance? Where were you at? What kind of questions were they asking?
Yeah, they asked me, I'm going to guess the standard routine questions when they're canvassing the neighborhood. They started off saying that they were canvassing the neighborhood and asking everybody that lived in the area if they'd seen anything unusual, heard anything that night. They did ask me what I was doing that night, which I was at home with my girlfriend at the time, and we were in bed when the around the time that the murders had happened.
Yeah.
They asked me if I could hear cars driving by from inside of my apartment, which unfortunately most of my apartment's underground, so I can't hear much that goes on outside of it.
Why was the police only interested in asking him questions about the cars driving outside that night? Pay attention to one thing. The police have been always focused on the cars. Why not the people on the foot? What about the foot soldiers running around? The 4 figures running at 312? What about the Bamfield boys? What about all the people that were out that night around that area? What about the Sigma Chi fraternity? Boys, the party, and whoever attended it, because we have 2 of the victims who attended that party and something happened there. Ethan and Zana, his timeline has always been blurry. No one is coming out and saying that they saw them in that timeline. Nobody's coming out and showing a picture of Ethan and Zana, unless the detectives have it and the prosecutor. Maybe since everything is in a gag order, we may end up seeing it later, but I doubt. But Kane, the neighbor, saw ambulances with the S. He saw cop cars. And that was at 12 o'clock. He said at noon. So that is when DM, BF, Hunter Johnson, Emily Ant called 911. So he must have been watching the commotion from his window, like he said. I wonder if Kane heard anyone on foot. But then guess what? Even if he heard that, I don't think anyone wants to be a witness in a case like this. It's a quadruple. He doesn't want anyone to come for him. I believe everyone was silenced, whether they were told to keep quiet or whether they were not told. These are frats, Greek life. They have their own promises and unity, codes to look out for each other and not to say anything. I'm sure everyone was scared to talk because 4 people have been unalived. Imagine what they're capable of doing, whoever did this. So Kane had a good view of the ambulances and the cop cars. I'm sure the police took out the 4 victims as discreet as they could, as professionalism as they could, because these 4 victims are somebody's daughters and son. And I'm happy that many people do not get to see the ambulances and all, because I think we should have boundaries and limits about speculating about bodies being carried out. These are young children. I know we have so many questions to ask, but that respect and mindfulness needs to be there. I don't think Cain has any reason to lie about seeing ambulances. So there, you'll have your answer. I've heard many people talking about there was no ambulances and Kaylee was shot on her face, God forbid, so she could have been. Because that's what her parents heard in the beginning. That's what her mother said. But does it look like a mother would be weeping her heart out like Chrissy is and was, and Maddie was? Maddie's mother was weeping. That can't be staged. We've seen crisis actors. Let's be real. This wasn't a staged. The crime scene could have been staged, in my opinion. But the 4 victims being unalive isn't staged. They all were cremated and maybe later buried. May they rest in peace. So to all my subscribers who've asked me that comment, that is my answer. In fact, I gave you all proof and receipts that you have the neighbor, Cain. And if you need to watch the full interview, please go to JLR Investigates. I'll leave his link. That's why it's important to have boots on the ground. Whether we like the channels or not, they were the boots on the ground. Respect to that. Credit to that. I respect the fact that JLR went and spoke to a couple of neighbors. Not everyone was willing to talk to him, but I think Cain gave us enough information.
Sigma Chi.
I think so.
Now, from that fraternity, have you ever seen like people walking from King Street to that fraternity, like back and forth, like through the grass there, or
Yes, that is something for like the parties that I've seen a lot of like the frats and the sororities along there. They would walk down that hill, across the grass, and then go to either the King Road area or the main road there and go to the parties. Because I know that U of I is a dry campus, so that's like right off of the campus grounds. So they drink and party, and it's always been since U of I became a dry college. That's always been like the party central.
When did they become a dry college?
I guess probably about 6 to 10 years ago. I honestly wouldn't know.
So I'm assuming it's a thing with all the university students to get housing there, or that's the spot to party.
Yeah, as far as I know.
Do people like park on the street there from the frat houses? Is there cars? Do you ever see like cars fill the streets there?
Yeah, like Halloween night, there was tons of vehicles parked all up and down our road, going to those parties.
Is that that's Taylor or King, or what road is that? Taylor, right?
I think it's Taylor, the main one that like King branches off onto, and then it goes up and turns into Valento, which is where I live, around that corner.
So
Kane has actually given us some information. JLR asked him excellent questions. He said that 1122 King Road was the party house. JLR asked him if the Sigma Chi fraternity boys used to party there. He said yes. He said that was the party house. He said on Friday, let's not forget, Friday would have been the 12th. He said there was a lot of cars parked in Kings Road. He didn't make it clear if it was in front of 1122 King Road or if it was all around King Road. He said and Valenta Road. Wasn't Friday night, the 12th, the night that DM took Kaylee as a +1 to the sorority party? Really wonder why Kaylee came back that night. I believe, Percy, that DM was sent to convince Kaylee to come back because Kaylee had the most injuries, or one of the most injuries, according to her father. Kaylee had a stalker, allegedly. We saw Kaylee taking pictures of the people behind her at the crop truck. And it seemed like Kaylee allegedly got Showalter kicked out of the corner club. Ethan allegedly got him kicked out of the frat for harassing women. Those rumors and speculations were coming from the college students. There were 2 sorority girls and the auntie who were at the corner club that night, and they wrote on Facebook in the beginning, if you'll remember. They said that Showalter, aka Hoodie Guy, was allegedly harassing Maddie and Kaylee, and they got him thrown out. That's why I believe he threatened Maddie, allegedly.
People like park on the street there from the frat houses? Is there cars? You ever see like cars fill the streets there?
Yeah, like Halloween night, there was tons of vehicles parked all up and down our road, going to those parties.
Is that, that's Taylor or King, or what road is that? Taylor, right?
I think it's Taylor, the main one that like King branches off onto, and then it goes up and turns into Valenta, which is where I live, around that corner.
So basically, is all the neighbors around there right now are just scared? I know you told me that in an email that you're scared, fearing that, there's a killer on the loose, or killers.
Yeah, and like that's something that Mosswood's never really had. I mean, we've had a couple of homicides or murders in town, but nothing like this before, especially with not having an answer within a few days. Like the last one we had was some guy shot up Arby's in a real estate place like years ago. I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago now.
I believe it's 2015 was the last homicide. I believe that's what they were saying.
Oh, wow. So I guess it's been a little longer.
If that's the same one, I don't know.
Yeah. And then the one before that, I was young when it happened, so I don't even know the year that one happened. So this isn't very common for this area, and it's quite alarming and concerning that, the police haven't really had any form of information or nothing new for us to go on. And
does that frustrate you? Does that what's your thoughts about that? Lack of information.
Sorry, what was that?
Lack of information, lack of updates.
Yeah, it's more along the lines of just lack of information that they're sharing. Because like when they first came out and did that first press conference and said that, this is an isolated attack, there's nothing to worry about. I just was like, I don't believe that. And the guys here, I work at Napa Auto Parts, and we all have been, trying to see what the news says or if there's any new information, and the lack of information is something that's kind of frustrating, especially being, I live alone, so it's kind of, I don't know, worrisome. And I mean, as I'm sure you know, my address is a public information.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I did want to ask you, and I'm definitely objective here. I'm not going to judge you or anything like that, you know. And I know that you are a registered SO, and that's why I asked you when I was emailed, like, did they come to you just because of your past, just